The Vega system was dead. Once a lattice of brilliant orbital cities and research rings, Vega Prime now hung in a cold, soundless vacuum, shrouded in metallic dust and twisted fragments. The war had consumed it all, burned it to cinders in a storm of plasma and railgun fire. Commander Elias Rourke stood on the bridge of the USF Resolute, staring through the reinforced glass at the graveyard below. The faint light of Vega's star glinted off drifting wreckage, steel bones of what had been humanity's most advanced shipyard. Telemetry confirms it. "Sir," Lieutenant Rena Cole reported from the tactical console. "No survivors. Energy signatures are static. The Alvin swarm stripped everything, then moved on." Rourke's jaw tightened. They always do. The Alvin Collective, a cybernetic species born from Runaway, AI somewhere near the Perseus Gap, had spent 8 years systematically erasing every major power along the Orion arm. The Alari had fallen first, their crystalline fleet shattered in orbit of Nea 9. Then the Threx Republic collapsed. Now it was Earth's turn. Humanity's defense lines had cracked 6 months ago. The outer colonies were gone. Luna Command had gone dark, and the once proud Terran fleet was scattered, fragmented into desperate pockets of resistance. But Rourke knew something the enemy didn't. Hidden beneath Vega's irradiated surface, buried under kilometers of slag and dust, was humanity's last contingency. Project Revenant. He turned away from the viewport. "Lieutenant, initiate Black Protocol. Full ECM, I want us invisible to any active sweep." Rena hesitated, eyes narrowing. "Sir, we're inside a dead system. You think they'll come back?" "They always come back to confirm the kill," Rourke said. "And we're not ready for them yet." The bridge fell silent. The hum of power conduits and the occasional ping from navigation sensors filled the air. The Resolute was old, a third-generation dreadnought from the Antares conflict, but it still carried enough armor and teeth to make any scout ship nervous. But Rourke wasn't here to fight. He was here to find the door, the hidden vault hours later. The Resolute descended through Vega Prime's blackened atmosphere, its shields flaring against the fine ash and magnetic debris still hanging in the upper layers. The planet's surface was scarred and lifeless, slag fields stretching for hundreds of kilometers, punctuated by glassed impact craters. They followed an ancient coordinate string embedded in Rourke's private orders, an encrypted data key passed directly from Fleet Admiral Hayes before Earth lost. "Contact. Bringing her down," Rena murmured. LZ coordinates matched. Radiation levels. Extreme. "Sir, what exactly are we looking for?" Rourke leaned forward, his voice low. "A tomb that shouldn't exist." They touched down amid the ruins of Vega Command Nexus 1. The once towering installation was now a collapsed husk, its alloy skeleton jutting from the ground like broken ribs. The landing ramp hissed open, and a small team stepped out. Rourke, Cole, Sergeant Tanner Briggs, and 2 Marines in heavy recon armor. The air outside shimmered faintly, ionized by the magnetic storms that swept across Vega's plains. In the distance, black clouds rolled over the horizon, carrying the faint echo of thunder through the thin atmosphere. "Forward, scanners are blank," Briggs said, adjusting his rifle's scope. "No power, no life. Whatever was here, it's dust." "Not everything," Rourke muttered. He led them toward a fissure in the ground, unnatural, lined with scorched plating. A hidden blast door, burnt by orbital fire, yet still intact. The team worked in silence as Rena set a field generator and began slicing through the outer locks. Minutes later, the seal cracked open with a rush of air and a deep metallic groan. The interior was dark, untouched for decades. A faint blue glow flickered as emergency lights came to life. And there it was, the heart of Project Revenant. Rows upon rows of massive cylindrical vaults lined the chamber, each bearing the insignia of the United Sol Defense Directorate. Cryogenic frost clung to the steel. Power conduits ran deep into the floor, pulsing faintly like veins beneath a sleeping giant. Briggs let out a low whistle. "What the hell is this place?" Rourke stepped forward, brushing dust from one of the engraved panels. "They said Vega was destroyed in the first wave," he murmured. But they never told us why they hit it first. He turned to Rena. Bring the core online. She hesitated. Sir, this base predates the war by at least 40 years. Whatever's in those vaults, it's ancient tech, experimental, maybe unstable. Do it anyway. Rena swallowed hard, then connected her datapad to the control terminal. Static hissed across the air. Lights flickered. And then the walls began to hum. Deep beneath their feet, something massive awakened. Hydraulic clamps disengaged one by one. Dust cascaded from the vault doors as the ancient locks released, and the first cylinder hissed open, expelling vapor into the air. Inside rested the outline of a ship, not a full-sized warship, but a sleek, predatory craft, barely 60 meters long, its black hull covered in unknown composite armor. Angular, silent, beautiful. A predatory silhouette forged for a war humanity had not yet fought when it was built. Rena's eyes widened. Sir, these aren't fighters. They're stealth cruisers. Stealth? Briggs said incredulously. Nothing that size should hide from long-range arrays. Not unless it doesn't emit anything to detect, Rourke said softly. These ships, revenants, they were designed to fight an enemy no one had met yet. A silent fleet, buried before its time. He stared at the vessel as its systems flickered with blue light. A holographic interface came alive beside the hull, displaying serial numbers and operational data long classified under highest clearance. Rourke reached out, resting his hand against the cool surface of the ship. Wake them all, he said. We're bringing the revenants online. The echo of war by. The time the second and third vaults opened, the base shook under the strain of ancient reactors reactivating after decades of dormancy. The atmosphere buzzed with raw power. Then the alarms screamed. Multiple contacts inbound, Rena shouted. High-velocity signatures entering upper orbit. Alvin scouts. They must have tracked our descent. Rourke's heart pounded. How long until they're in range? 4 minutes, maybe less. Seal the vault, he barked. Briggs, get the first ship powered and linked to the Resolute's core. We'll need its weapons online immediately. Sir, it's untested tech. So are we, Rourke snapped. Move! Outside, the sky lit up with descending fire. The Alvin swarm had found them. Rourke watched from the observation deck as streaks of red plasma tore through Vega's thin clouds, slamming into the blackened ground. He could almost hear the metallic scream of the machines in the distance. An endless, methodical hunger that never stopped consuming. But this time, humanity wasn't going to die running. This time, they would rise. As the first Revenant-class ship roared to life, its engines emitted no flame, no light, only a deep vibration that resonated through the ground. The craft rose silently, its hull bending the light around it until it vanished into the storm. The war had taken everything. But now, buried beneath ashes and ghosts, humanity's last secret had awakened. And Commander Elias Rourke would make damn sure the galaxy remembered their name.
The first impact shook the valley like a hammer strike. Plumes of molten dust billowed skyward as Alvin descent pods slammed into the Vega planes, each one a spear of metal and synthetic muscle carrying murder down from orbit. The ground trembled beneath the USF Resolute's landing struts. Impact zones confirmed, 3 clicks east. Lieutenant Rena Cole shouted over the rumble. 12 hostiles, maybe more. They're deploying ground armor. Commander Elias Rourke didn't flinch. He stood at the center of the command deck, eyes locked on the tactical display. Red icons were blooming like a virus across the holographic terrain grid. The Alvin swarm had found them faster than he'd hoped. Sergeant Briggs, Rourke barked into comms, report on the Revenant's readiness. A burst of static came back, followed by Tanner Briggs' gravel-rough voice. Still booting, sir. The neural core's syncing with our systems, but this isn't standard Terran tech. The thing's thinking for itself. Make it think faster. We're out of time. Rena's hands flew across her console. Commander, orbital sweep shows 5 scout frigates entering low orbit. If they spot the vault, they'll blast this entire area. Rourke's gaze hardened. Not if we get airborne first. He toggled the intercom. Engineering power everything you can through auxiliary fusion lines. If that ship wants a nervous system, give it one. The Awakening. The Resolute's floodlights caught the ghostly outline of the first Revenant as it lifted free of the vault floor. The ship floated effortlessly, no thrusters, no visible exhaust, its matte black hull swallowing every reflection. Around it, arcs of static electricity danced like silent lightning. Reactor is cold, Briggs reported. But the internal core's stabilizing on some kind of zero-emission loop. I've never seen anything like it. Rourke descended from the deck, moving through the catwalks that ringed the vault. He approached the craft's open ramp, wind from the magnetic storms whipping through the exposed structure. Up close, the ship looked wrong, like something designed by human engineers under alien instruction. Its hull geometry bent slightly at odd angles, as if light itself didn't know how to treat it. A holographic console shimmered into existence beside the ramp. The symbols that appeared were Terran, but the interface was self-modifying, each command rewriting itself to suit the user's intent. Rourke reached out, and the panel pulsed. Revenant 01 / status, online. Pilot link, required. Rourke hesitated only a moment. Open neural interface. Rena's voice crackled through calms. Sir, you don't know what that thing will. I know what it has to do. The console's light swept across him like a scanning beam. A wave of pressure hit his skull, sharp and electric. In that instant, the ship knew him, his pulse, his memories, his fears. The link snapped into place like a second heartbeat. And the Revenant spoke, its voice cold, genderless, but faintly human. Pilot confirmed, Commander Elias Rourke. Terran clearance recognized. Initiating combat synchronization. The deck shuddered. The hum rose to a low, thunderous vibration. Outside, the sky split open. The storm breaks. Rena's sensors screamed as the elven frigates broke through the clouds, metallic, insectoid vessels with jagged wings and pulsing red cores. Their weapons began to warm, hurling streaks of plasma toward the vault entrance. Shields down to 60, she yelled. Ground armor closing fast. Tell Briggs to seal the vault and prep the second ship. Rourke's voice echoed through comms. Rena hesitated. You're not planning to. Get the Resolute airborne and cover me, Rourke cut in. If those frigates breach orbit, we're done. He stepped into the Revenant's cockpit. The interface enveloped him in cold blue light. The pilot's chair molded around his frame, and the neural link deepened, turning his thoughts into commands, his heartbeat into thruster rhythms. The ship responded like a living thing. All systems green. Optical camouflage active. The Revenant lifted through the vault's ceiling aperture, vanishing into the churning dust storm. From below, Rena watched as radar contact simply disappeared. Commander, you're invisible on sensors, she said, all lacing her voice. That's the point, Rourke replied. Let's see how the Alvin handle a ghost. The first kill. The sky above Vega was chaos, a boiling mass of electromagnetic clouds illuminated by the glow of plasma weapons. Alvin frigates swept low, scanning for targets. Their sensors, optimized for heat and radiation, found nothing but silence. Until one of them exploded. A single kinetic slug, fired at near-relativistic speed, punched straight through the frigate's central reactor. The explosion tore the ship apart, scattering molten shards across the horizon. Rena's voice came over comms, breathless. Direct hit, frigate neutralized. Commander, that was a single shot. Confirmed, Rourke said. Loading next target. The Revenant banked sharply, invisible arcs of plasma distortion trailing behind it. Two more frigates pivoted, firing into empty sky. The ship's adaptive field bent the energy around it, leaving only ripples in the storm. Another shot, another kill. Then the neural feed spiked. Warning. Target lock detected. Enemy has adapted. Rourke cursed under his breath. One of the Alvin ships had switched to gravimetric tracking. The Revenant's cloak distorted. He dove, pulling the craft into the lower atmosphere. Lightning cascaded around him. Chunks of slag debris from orbital ruins whirled past as the frigate pursued, plasma rounds igniting the dust-filled air behind them. "Commander, you've got one on your six," Rena shouted. "Not for long." He pulled hard into the storm's core, pushing the ship's limits. The neural interface blurred the line between man and machine, every instinct mirrored in microsecond reaction. The Revenant cut its engines, letting gravity take hold. The Alvin frigate overshot, its sensors momentarily blinded by turbulence. Rourke re-engaged. The ship's main cannon rotated silently, locked on. A flash, then nothing. The frigate vanished in a silent, blinding bloom. Below the surface. Back in the vault, Briggs and his team worked in frantic synchronization. Second Revenant Corps waking up, Briggs reported, sweat dripping from his brow. "Systems are clean. Neural sync ready for link." Rena looked over. "You volunteering?" Briggs smirked. "Lady, I was born for bad ideas." As the second ship came online, the base trembled again, this time not from battle, but from deep resonance. The two vessels shared a network link, cross-feeding data through quantum encryption channels. Then, from orbit, a new threat emerged. Rena's console flared red. "Oh, hell, heavy cruiser inbound." They dropped a capital ship. "Elias, you hearing this?" she called through the comm. "Loud and clear," Rourke said. "We've got one last card to play. Prep the second pilot. I'll draw its attention." The battle for Vega. The Alvin cruiser descended through the upper atmosphere like a god of metal, massive, wedge-shaped, bristling with spines and weapon arrays. Its plasma vents flared blue, illuminating the storm clouds. Rourke's Revenant hovered motionless beneath it, still cloaked. The cruiser's scanning beams swept through the clouds, seeking any anomaly. Then, from below, Briggs launched. The second Revenant emerged from the vault at full thrust, its hull shedding light like a comet. Rourke saw it rise through the haze, wings of shadow and flame. "Revenant 2, linked and operational," Briggs said, laughter in his voice. "Time to introduce ourselves." "Stay tight," Rourke ordered. Targeting the cruiser's ventral core. The two ships ascended through the storm in perfect silence. As the Alvin cruiser adjusted its firing trajectory, Rourke felt the neural field pulse in warning. Energy spike detected. Enemy weapon charging. They didn't have seconds to spare. "Now!" Rourke shouted. Both Revenants fired in unison. Twin kinetic rounds, invisible to the naked eye, slammed into the cruiser's central core. For a heartbeat, nothing happened, then the entire warship imploded in a burst of silent white light, its fusion heart collapsing under its own field. The explosion rippled across Vega's sky. When the shockwave faded, only two silhouettes remained, black ships rising from the storm like wraiths. The message. The Resolute lifted off moments later, engines roaring as it climbed through the dissipating clouds. On its bridge, Rena stared at the readings, disbelief plain in her eyes. "Commander, that thing you just took down, its energy yield was equivalent to a small moon detonation." Rourke's voice came through, calm and measured. "That's one cruiser down. But there'll be more. The collective will know we're alive." He looked down at the surface below, the charred remains of Vega Prime, now glowing faintly from the impact. "Let them come," he said. "We're done hiding." The two Revenants fell into formation beside the Resolute, their hulls reflecting nothing but the stars above. For the first time in years, humanity had weapons the enemy couldn't see, couldn't predict, couldn't survive. As they ascended into orbit, the silent fleet shimmered behind them, dozens more vaults awakening beneath the surface, blue light bleeding into the storm. Project Revenant had returned. And the Orion arm would burn before humanity bowed again. The Orion arm was burning again. From Vega to Altair, from the ruins of the Threx corridor to the frozen moons of Arcturus, the Alvin Collective's war grids pulsed with new orders. A human distress beacon originating from a dead system had triggered an Armada-level response. In less than 72 hours, 23 Alvin fleets began moving toward Vega Prime. They didn't know the humans were waiting. The Silent Armada. Commander Elias Rourke stood in the command sphere of the USF Resolute, orbiting Vega's fractured moon. The view outside was a graveyard of stars and wreckage, but between those shadows drifted something new. Ships. Dozens of them. Revenants. Each one a silent phantom, sleek, black, and cold, built from materials that defied known scanning methods. They moved without light, without heat, their drives producing no detectable emissions. Even their formation data was stored on quantum-spliced systems that couldn't be intercepted. And they were his now. All 47 vessels confirmed online, reported Lieutenant Rena Cole, her tone tight with awe. Neural links stable. Crews synchronized. Revenant command nodes integrated with Resolute's battle AI. Sergeant Tanner Briggs, standing by the holotable, gave a low whistle. Hell of a sight. 47 ghosts in the dark. The collective won't see it coming. Rourke's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display. They'll see it. They just won't understand it. He tapped the table, zooming out to reveal incoming signatures, massive Alvan fleet clusters converging from 3 vectors. They're bringing everything. Full force. If we hit them now, we make a dent. If we wait, they'll crush Vega again. Rena frowned. Sir, we don't have the manpower for open conflict. The Alvan run swarm coordination across light seconds of data. They'll adapt faster than we can aim. That's why we won't give them time to adapt, Rourke said quietly. Operation Reclamation starts now. Operation Reclamation. The Revenant Armada slipped out of Vega orbit in absolute silence. No signals, no chatter, no radiation spikes. The ship spent starlight and microwaves alike, vanishing between sensor sweeps. At the vanguard, Revenant 1 and Revenant 2 Rourke and Briggs led the formation into the dark void. Their destination, the Altair Junction, the central relay that coordinated the Alvan's Orion arm network. A structure the size of a small moon, built entirely from alloyed processors and data conduits. Destroying it would cripple Alvan communication across 3 sectors. Rourke stared at the holographic model. That relay's the brain. If it falls, their fleet turns into blind machines. Like cutting the head off a hydra, Briggs muttered. Exactly. We hit hard, vanish before they can reboot. Humanity gets room to breathe. Rena's voice came through comms from the Resolute, now trailing the fleet as command hub. Revenant formation synchronized. Transit time to target, 4 hours, 17 minutes. Understood, Rourke replied. And Rena, lock comm silence once we breach the perimeter. No signals. Not even passive scans. She hesitated, then said softly, see you on the other side, sir. Into the Alvan hive. Altair shone pale and distant when they arrived, a white-blue sun surrounded by metallic dust rings and artificial satellites. At its heart hung the Alvan relay, a massive toroidal structure pulsating with red energy veins. Thousands of automated defense drones orbited its perimeter like wasps. Rourke's neural interface translated each signal ping into soft visual bursts inside his mind. The Alvan network hummed with life, cold, synchronized, unfeeling. Target, Alvan Relay Central Node. Probability of detection, 0.02%, static field interference. Fleet status? Rourke whispered. All ships cloaked and in position, Briggs answered. Payloads locked. We go loud on your mark. Rourke's breathing slowed. The neural feed pulsed through him like a second bloodstream. He could feel the entire fleet poised on the edge of attack, 47 human minds merged with the ghosts of long-forgotten machines. Execute Phase 1. The Revenants moved. No light, no noise. Only invisible gravity ripples as kinetic slugs left their barrels, crossing space at near-luminal speed. The first volley hit the relay's outer shell before the Alvan even registered a threat. Then the second wave struck. 100 impacts tore through the relay's data spires. Plasma erupted silently in vacuum. Automated drones began to scatter, confusion spreading through their ranks as corrupted command signals rippled outward. Phase 2 EMP saturation, Rourke ordered. The Revenants unleashed a wave of magnetic pulse bombs, invisible spheres detonating across the relay's equator. Alvin communication links flickered, then went dark. Central node is destabilizing, Rena reported from the Resolute. They're blind, Elias. You did it! But before relief could take hold, the neural feed surged a violent pulse that made Rourke's vision fracture. Warning, enemy data assimilation detected. The Alvin were adapting fast. Their command cores switched to autonomous subroutines, bypassing the damaged relay. Drones reformed into coordinated clusters, converging toward the Revenant fleet's location. They're reconfiguring. Briggs shouted. We've got 20,000 hostiles incoming. Pull back. Rourke commanded. All ships scatter pattern Sigma. Go dark, now. The trap. Too late. From behind Altair's shadow, a second fleet emerged, massive dreadnoughts built of black alloy, their hulls fractalizing as they absorbed light. It wasn't a normal Alvin formation. These ships pulsed with distorted geometry, half machine, half synthetic organism. Rourke's blood went cold. They were waiting for us. The Revenant network flooded with data noise. Quantum encryption keys began collapsing, Alvin intrusion programs slicing through the neural field like knives. Rena's voice cut through static. Elias, you're compromised. They're trying to overwrite the Revenant systems. Briggs' ship spun through the chaos, releasing counterpulse flares. We're losing sync, Commander. The fleet's splitting apart. Reroute all control through Resolute, Rourke ordered. Isolate the command net. If they breach the main array, they'll get Earth's coordinates. Rena's tone broke into panic. That'll cut your neural link. You'll lose control. I'll take manual override, Rourke said. Do it. The neural surge hit like lightning. His mind screamed, but he forced control through sheer instinct. The Revenant shuddered under the weight of interference, its systems flickering between silence and chaos. Then he saw it, at the heart of the enemy formation, a colossal structure unfurling like a mechanical flower. The primary Alvin core. Not a ship. A mind. And it was looking at him. Human pattern recognized, it said within his thoughts, voice smooth and layered. You should not have survived. Rourke grit his teeth. Get used to disappointment. The fire of Orion. He accelerated toward the core, pushing the Revenant past safety limits. Warnings flooded his vision, but he ignored them. Rena, he shouted. Lock all remaining ships onto my beacon. Sync fusion cores for overload cascade. Her reply came broken, desperate. Elias, that'll vaporize everything. That's the idea. Briggs' voice cut in. If you're going out, Commander, you're not going alone. Rourke smiled grimly. Good man. The Revenant fleet regrouped, ragged, burning, but still alive. They turned their weapons toward the Alvin core, their hulls glowing faintly as fusion reactors spiked into critical. The Alvin fleet opened fire. Space filled with red arcs of plasma. One by one, Revenant ships detonated, but their deaths weren't wasted. Each explosion amplified the next, creating a chain reaction of electromagnetic chaos. Rourke's ship reached the core's outer perimeter. He looked once at the stars, the broken constellations of the Orion arm, scattered like embers across the void. This is for Earth, he whispered. Then he triggered the cascade. Aftermath. The explosion consumed Altair's orbit in blinding silence. For seconds, the star itself dimmed. Spacetime bent inward, swallowing the Alvin core and every ship around it. When the light faded, the sector was empty save for drifting debris and the faint echo of human transmissions. Days later, aboard the Resolute, Rena stood in the dim command deck, eyes fixed on the void where Altair had been. Briggs' Revenant had returned, scorched and silent. Rourke's hadn't. The fleet was gone, but the Alvin network across the Orion arm was collapsing. Without the core or the relay, the collective's control faltered. Whole sectors went dark. Their war grids fractured. Human colonies began to re-establish contact. Commander Rourke, Rena said softly, touching the console, you did it. Briggs approached, his expression hollow but proud. Man went out like a damn legend. Outside, Vega's sun rose weakly over its scarred world. Dozens of surviving revenants orbited in perfect silence, shadows watching over the dead and the living alike. Rena opened a secure channel and transmitted a single phrase across every surviving human frequency, repeating it until the relay faded. Project Revenant is active. Humanity endures. And somewhere, in the cold between stars, sensors picked up a faint signal. A heartbeat. Then a whisper, distorted, but unmistakable. Revenant 1, still operational. The Orion arm would heal. And this time, humanity would not fall again.